Hello and welcome to this video tutorial in how to use the 1718 Southwestern College form for action steps for your annual program review. In this video we're going to cover sections 3 and 4. Section 3 is the outcomes, data, and evidence section of your action step, and section 4 is strategic planning. In this video we will talk about the different kinds of data that are necessary and useful for justifying and explaining your action step, as well as how to connect your action step to our strategic planning and other planning documents. You'll notice there's quite a bit of information available to you at the beginning of section 3, including our mission statement, which should be the basis for all of our action steps. Linking your action step to the mission is a crucial component of our planning as well as our accreditation accountability. Also in the opening section of the outcomes, data, and evidence section are many hyperlinks to different sources of data that you might find useful, including the mission. There is also a link to the Illumin database that we use to house our student learning outcomes data, and many other internal and external data sources that might be useful for you. As you scroll down section 3, the first question you'll be asked is whether or not you are using SLO or AUO data to support your action step. SLOs are student learning outcomes and are associated with academic programs and courses, and AUOs are administrative unit outcomes, which are statements that describe how the administrative unit benefits students and what students learn or benefit from the work that those administrative units do. Now, this section of the action step form is built using conditional logic, so the answer to one question will potentially open other dialog fields. For example, if I am planning to use SLO data in order to justify or explain my action step, and I choose yes from the drop-down menu, then I am provided with a field where I can type the SLO that I am using to justify this action step. My next step is to connect that SLO or AUO to its relevant institutional student learning outcome. All of our SLOs and AUOs are supposed to be connected to institutional learning outcomes, and student learning outcomes can be found in CurricuNet along with their associated institutional learning outcomes. Administrative unit outcomes are not housed in CurricuNet, however they should be found in Illumin along with their associated institutional learning outcome. Once you've identified the appropriate institutional learning outcome, and there may be several, then the next field asks you to explain your method for collecting the data that you're using to justify your action step. For most SLOs, this will be some kind of an assignment or assessment that's given in a class or many sections of a class. For administrative unit outcomes, this may be a survey or some other form of collecting data from the students that you work with. Once you've indicated what method you're using to collect the data, then the findings of that data collection can be typed into the next field, explaining what your analysis tells you and the conclusions you've drawn based on the information you've collected. After completing your findings, you do have the option to provide more data and evidence to support your action step, but this field is optional. If you wish to use a second SLO or AUO to support your action step, you may choose to do so, and you have the same process follows below. Let's back up just for a moment though. Should you say no to the question of whether you're using SLO or AUO data, a field asking for additional data and evidence appears. And this is a required field because every action step should have some form of data to support it, whether that be highly formalized quantitative data such as surveys or other measurement instruments, or anecdotal data developed by people working on the action step. However, this field cannot be left blank. Moving on to the strategic planning section. In this section, again, like the one above, this section uses conditional logic, so every choice you make will open up a series of other choices. It's required that you connect your action step to one of our strategic planning priorities, objectives, and goals. And by choosing one of the strategic planning priorities or more, immediately the goals for that particular priority will appear for you. And once you've selected one or more of the goals under the strategic planning priority you've chosen, then you'll have the opportunity to select one or more objectives. The more strategic planning priorities you select, the more choices you'll have to make regarding the priorities, goals, and objectives. In addition to the strategic planning information, you're asked to include whether this action step is relevant to any of our other planning documents, such as the technology plan or the educational master plan. This is a required question, however, it is appropriate to say that none was consulted or indicate another planning document that was useful for you in determining your action step. Keep in mind that data is a crucial component of your action step, and providing that data assists in your efforts to secure resources for supporting the action step that you're undertaking. This concludes this video tutorial on the ODES and Strategic Planning and Integrated Planning section of the action step form for the annual program review cycle. Other videos are available on the Institutional Program Review Support Materials website.